Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the studio and another live broadcast drum recording seminar. We're going to do a really cool minimal mic setup that's actually only 3 microphones, kick and 2 overheads. I know you can see another mic there. We'll get to that in a little bit. I'm going to augment this a little. This is really cool. This setup, it's very organic. This is not your super hyped up production style setup at all. This is very much an organic setup. However, it can be the foundation for a much more full and big setup too. Now today's, you've probably heard of this before. It's the Recorderman setup. This has gone over a lot. A lot of people use this. It's a really, really simple setup and a really good sounding setup. We got 2 mics. The basic part of this setup, we've got an overhead mic that is pointed directly down at the snare. We have one over the shoulder also pointed at the center of the snare. Now if we're doing this correct, the Recorderman is basically 2 drumsticks lengths away from the snare drum on both of these microphones, right? It's really tight. Hey, can you guys real quick throw up the shot number 2, photo number 2, so I want you guys to see a side shot of this. This can, as a player, this can feel a little bit intrusive because you've got a mic stand and a microphone right on top of you and you have another one right over your shoulder. Cool, thanks guys. So it can feel, you're sitting here trying to play and man, that mic is right there, so you have to be controlled. This is definitely not, I'm not going to do this with Ray Luzier. No way, not going to happen. It's got to be something that's more down here. Now, I want you to hear what this sounds like, and when Tal comes out here in a second to play, and you get an idea, and then we're going to cheat it. I quite often, when I use this, instead of 2 drumsticks, I may actually go up a whole other half drumstick or even more, depending on the drummer and how much movement we have. So the last thing you need to know about this placement, besides being 2 drumsticks, it needs to be the same distance from the kick and the snare drum. So again, pull out your trusty mic cable. I'm going to hold it down to the kick drum with the mic cable. I'm going to measure up to, I'm going to hold it to the kick drum with the bass drum beater, and then I'm going to measure up to this mic, down to the center snare, and then I'm going to come to this back mic. We're pretty close. We're just a hair off, but not too bad. And that's important because we want that kick and the snare to be strong in the center. All right, so let's start off first off. Can you hear me there, buddy? I'm going to start with just the overheads. Just give me a simple groove. Go to the ride. Go to the ride. And give me a tom groove. One, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that right now is just the 2 overhead microphones, and they're not panned very hard. This setup I wouldn't go hard left and hard right on because it can get a little weird. I am probably, if I'm thinking, I'm maybe about 45% left and right as far as my panning goes. Our overhead mics are Audio-Technica AE5100s. Inside the kick I have an Audio-Technica ATM 250, and we'll get to the other one in a moment. So now let's bring in, I'm going to turn the kick all the way off. Give me that same simple groove with a little fill at the end of every couple bars. Overheads only. Now we got the kick drum rolled in. No kick. Kick. 3, 4, boom. So the idea with this setup is the kick drum needs to come in to support what's going on in the overheads. We're not necessarily basing our sound around the kick drum, like maybe a traditional rock setup where you have a kick and a snare mic, plus the overheads and maybe some toms and whatnot, where you're going to pull the kick and pull the snare up and you're going to fit things around it so it's nice and punchy. In this case, we want to make sure we get the overhead sound right, and then we're just going to blend the kick drum in to where our bottom end feels like it's on par volume-wise with what's going on in the snare drum, the toms, and the cymbals. In this case, play that groove again. It's real easy. So there, the kick is too loud. Off. On. So you notice when you just bring that kick in a little bit, if it's too much, it starts to feel kind of lopsided and heavy on the bottom. Whereas if you just blend it in enough, you get a really nice, even feel of what's going on between the bottom end and the top end of the kit. So now, like I said, this is a very intrusive setup. You know, as a drummer, how does it feel comfortable to play with those mics right there? No, not at all, does it? I don't like it either. Matter of fact, I don't know too many drummers that do. So what I want to do is we're going to cheat this just a little bit, and we're going to move things up. All right, I'm going to go back to just the overheads. Go for it. It's not a huge difference. I'll bring the kick in. Go to the ride. Give me a tom groove. Two, three, four. Cool, cool, cool. So it didn't really change a whole lot. Is that more comfortable though with those mics? And that's an important thing too, is you've got to make sure that your player is comfortable so they can do the best job they can. And if you get a mic down, it may, like right here, and you go, oh, that sounds awesome, but the player's just not comfortable with it, then you know what? You got to move it a little bit. In this case, maybe 8 inches didn't change our sound drastically, but it definitely made him feel a hell of a lot more comfortable.